What is going on, everybody? This week we have a very special guest. Welcome to episode 210 of the Start Build Grow Show. We appreciate you guys joining again. We are live this week, which is very unique because we've been going to the pre-recorded, but now we're here live. So thanks to those of you that are tuning in. Let's hop into it. What up, everybody? Thanks again for tuning in. If you have not already, please press that subscribe button on the Apple Podcasts or Spotify channels, or if you're following us on social media through Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, all the channels, please like, share, comment, do everything that is necessary for the word to get spread out. And we appreciate you guys doing that. If you haven't already, please rate the podcast through one of those podcast channels, and we would really appreciate you guys doing that. So again, thank you for joining us this week live. We are live with 210, and we have Mr. Greg Marthaler on the line with us from SFY Solutions for You. Appreciate you joining us, Greg. How you doing?
Well, thank you. I'm doing great. Glad to be here. It's exciting. Yeah. 210. It's amazing.
Yeah, 210, man. It's getting up there. So appreciate you joining us, man. So guys, this week it's going to be a lot of fun. We're talking about specifically around supplementing and estimating, but a little bit of a different angle. And I know that for those of you, many of you know Greg's incredible story, so we're going to let him share a little bit of that in just a second. But we have a really, really special experience for you guys this week because we have a lot to uncover when it comes to the supplementing process and how the game has changed a little bit and how really it's up to you to understand your numbers and understand your profitability and some of those things, again, we're going to get into today. But first, I want to kick it off and say, Greg, you got an incredible story, man, running for you right now. And every time I see you, your face just, I get bigger and you just start trimming down every time I see you. So I would love to, this podcast is founded on the idea of the entrepreneurial journey. And, obviously, you have one to share with us about your experience at SFY, and things you're creating there, but also on the personal side, your transformation you're going through. So I'd love to be able to just open the floor up to you and let you share a little bit about who Greg is and what's been going on.
Yeah. So about a year ago, really decided to make a huge change in my life and work my weight. People that know me have been around the space. My peak weight was 515 pounds. When I did some weight loss surgery at 474, which was a tool to help me lose weight, and modifying my diet quite a bit, changing the types of food I eat, eliminating sugars and high fats. I still eat some of that, but not anywhere near the volume I did. And then exercise probably anywhere between 5 to 12 hours a week. And that's between Orange Theory. I'm a big fan of personal training. I swim, I do yoga, I stretch, all of it to really work on getting my weight down. I'm currently at 269, so I'm down 205 pounds, pretty much in about a year and 10 days or so, plus or minus a few. And it's been life changing. I mean, it really has been. If you were to, I used to sleep probably a solid 9 hours a day with an hour nap. Just when you're that big, carrying that much weight around, your body's just exhausted. And now I'm probably clipping at about 6-7 hours of rest, and I'm up and ready to go. It's kind of shocking. I wake up and I think like I shouldn't be up, and I'm like, I should be sleeping more. And so I'm still trying to get used to some of waking up that quick at night. So
yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. And we've had a few people chiming in. I know Kyle had said, Greg, it's amazing. Wouldn't know you if I saw you. And we got Dan chiming in saying, what's up, fellas? So appreciate you guys tuning in. Yeah. And so tell us and your story. It's absolutely crazy. A lot of momentum I know that you're carrying. You're continuing to carry with this weight loss journey, which is very awesome. I know you had done a 14er recently, right?
Yeah. It was the hardest thing I've ever done physically so far. My trainer, so he loves climbing 14ers all the time. So all the people he trains, he tries to bring up to a 14er to do. And the one we did was Mount Elbert, which is the tallest 14er in Colorado.
That's awesome.
And, it's a great one. He gave me a success rate of probably about a 30% chance of succeeding because it's really mental determination if you're going to get to the top. It's about 5 miles up and 5 miles down to get to the top of Mount Elbert, and took me a total of 14 hours to climb. And the funny thing is everyone told me that going down the mountain was the hardest part of climbing the mountain. And I thought they were just lying. Like, I'll be like 100, like, I'm like, there's just no way climbing a mountain. The hardest part's coming down from the mountain. Like, I literally just was like, you guys are idiots. Like, I don't know, like, you guys teasing me? Like, I don't even know what, but the reason it's the hardest, so it is true, the hardest part is coming down. It's because of your knees.
Yeah, sure.
When you come down, the impact of coming down and hitting your knee, and it's like, for the first mile is okay, and for me, the first mile is okay. The last 4 miles, I felt like my left knee was just going to blow out. Wow. Just because it's so tender, and it's just the impact and some of that. So
I'm assuming you prepped with some knee braces and stuff like that. And it's still
heck no. I wish I did. I wish I had like walking sticks. Everyone's like, you should have these walking sticks. I was like, I've never done a 14. Like,
You thought your trainer would lead you a little bit better than that, huh?
Well, he doesn't go with walking. Like, he's like, you don't. It's just, you can have them. You don't have to have them. I was lucky enough to find a walking stick when I parked there, because you start listening to the other side. Like I had no clue what time you start, because I'm like, oh, so what time we start the 14, or like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning? He Charlie's like, yeah, we're starting like 4 in the morning. Some people start at 3 in the morning to go. I was like, oh wow, this is a whole different type of hike. I'm used to.
Yeah. No doubt. And for those of you watching the show, don't know what a 14er is, 14,000 feet above sea level. Colorado has a few of them, and I know there's books written from people that actually climb them on have accomplished that feat, and it's no easy feat, no doubt. So that's super impressive that you did that. So share with us a little bit, Greg, about your entrepreneurial journey, a little bit of history about how you got in the industry, and then I know you've been on the show before. It's been a little while. So for those of you that, have watched the podcast or have seen us live, Greg, I don't know if everybody knows your story. So I'd like for you to share that real quick.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So a little bit of background. So I've kind of been an entrepreneur at heart as a kid. My first business was cutting grass at the age of 12. Cut anywhere between 15 to 20 to 25 yards, and made more money cutting grass than I did after I quit doing that, working at a pizza restaurant. It was really disappointing to see the check differences in it, but did that. And then my next major company after graduating high school, I started a cell phone company. And then I owned a couple mortgage companies, and then really moved after that into owning a roofing company. And that's really how I got into this space. Owned a roofing company for about 8 years, and then we sold that company. And then the transition of selling that company is when I moved into starting a supplement company and supplementing claims. And we've had it from basically since 2016 is when we started. So about 7 years now.
Awesome. Solutions for you, for those of you wanting to know what SFY stands for. And you're supplementing. So tell us everything that you do at SFY besides just doing the supplementing.
So we obviously write estimates. We supplement estimates. We now teach Xactimate level 1, 2, and 3. We also do it I know this does a lot more focus in the roofing space or exterior, but we also do this in the water mitigation space as well. So we write for ServPro, Service Master, Paul Davis, those types of companies in the water restoration, build back or fires, and that type of scenario. So we do both sides very well in the space. And our next major thing is working on our SFY University, coaching, developing, and teaching people how to supplement, how to do it better, rebuttal trainings, and become more proficient at it to really help them elevate the space.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love it. Cool. So we're all about education here on the Start Build Grow Show. As you know, Greg, you've been on before. Yeah. So today's topic, again, optimal profit for roofers through supplementing and estimating. This is going to be a fun little thing to go through today, topic to go through, because I know that, there's been a lot of change. There's been a lot of change. And I think it'll continue to evolve and change, obviously, as the years pass us, in terms of how the insurance game works and how supplementing and estimating works, and how it should, be based around knowing your numbers. And you and I talked a little bit about that before going live on the show here, in terms of understanding where you need to be as a roofing company and how important it is to really understand your numbers. And it's funny because Randy and I, have been talking about this topic very specifically on this One Industry, One Model tour, and some of the other things we've been doing across the country through on-sites and other speaking engagements to talk about this topic exactly, which is knowing your numbers and understanding where you really need to be. Because so many roofing companies, and I'll let you share a little bit of your take on it, obviously, as we hop into this, but so many roofing companies have no clue what their numbers are, and it's staggering. It's actually extremely it's scary in this idea that there's no relevance to what actually needs to be made on a claim or on a job, because they're just trying to supplement the crap out of it, get the absolute most they can, and not actually know, does that need to go to pre-supplementing? Does that need to, go through another channel, right? So I'm interested to hear today from your angle and get some education from you around your thoughts on all of this. But first, I want you to kind of just share openly about what's got you so passionate to talk about this,
Yeah, I think as a business owner, when especially since I used to own a roofing company, most supplement companies have never owned a roofing company or run or managed and been in financial pinches or tight situations or just dealing with customers, clients, issues, crews not showing up to job sites. Like there's an understanding that I think when you have and worked in that space, you can bring to this field. And I work with a lot of different roofing companies, some great, some not so great. And as well as I also work with also like a lot of franchises. And it's interesting because in the franchise space, they typically like to find people that have never been in the roofing space at all, like zero roofing. They prefer that, mainly because they can teach them numbers, right? They go through the numbers, they go through models all the time. They go through planning, they plan out the year, they plan out their winners. They plan out, hey, look, we're only can probably do a quarter of the volume of business in this time in Colorado. Like Colorado, there is a low in Colorado, and there is lows in Minnesota and some other areas. In Texas, it may not be as big of a low, but there is a low. So they help you walk through building a model and what it looks like and working on going from the bat, all the way to the starting. Like, hey, look, how many doors do I need to knock or potential clients to be able to get deals? And, you start working your numbers. And I did a lot of cold calls back in the day when I was younger. So I did, 300-400 phone calls. If I did so many calls a day, I got so many potential appointments, and so many appointments led to a deal, and so many deals led to my paycheck. It's the same thing in the roofing space. Hey, look, average house and roof is XYZ, and I could do this, and this is how much profitability I'm going to get on a home. And a lot of times I think we've gotten to, especially in the storm restoration space, we just assume, exactubate an insurance company, where if we supplement it, we're going to have enough money and everyone's going to be happy. And that's it. And that's what most people go about and plan through their whole situation and in running their company. And that's not the way to run a business, to run a company. And we have some of the most amazing tools in this space today to help you find this information out super fast. A lot of CRMs have this information already built into their platforms to help you calculate your labor cost, to help you calculate your material orders, and material cost. And then to figure out after that, then you just got to figure out your overhead, which you should be able to work with your CPA or accounting firm, or just go through your profit and loss statement. You can add the numbers up and you divide it, and you can figure out what your overhead cost is. And it's going to be different for every roofing company. You could have two companies in the same city, the exact same spot, same building, and their overheads are going to be different.
Oh, 1,000%.
Right. Like they could be similar, but they're going to be different. One could be running at, let's say, a 23, 24%, the other one running at a 26. Well, why is it 3%? Because they function and run the company a little different in how they manage their organization. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think the more that companies begin to learn to understand what their numbers is and what their profit margin needs to be, like, and some people like, well, it's 10%. I don't know. Sometimes, corporations like to run probably closer to 34% profit margin, not a 10%, right? So what is your actual profit margin you need to hit on your jobs and this to hit what it is, right? And so you can work that out either on a simple Excel sheet. And every job you get, you should be running this through. Hey, look, this is what I should be charging. This is what I should be making on a file. And if I'm not hitting that mark, then I know I need a supplement. Then I know I need to push these things. And then that way I need to know if I need to get a public adjuster involved, or if I need to take it. Hey, look, we need to go to, hey, look, I can't, or as much as I say this, some insurance, hey, look, I'm not able to do this. The insurance company's not paying it. I'm either, yeah, two options. You come out of pocket the money, or I'm just not going to do the roof, and you walk away and go do a different job.
Yeah, it's
You
great.
know,
Everything you just mentioned, Greg, and this is not to plug TRA by any means, but we have all those Excel spreadsheets and things that
yeah,
we provide to our clients, and that's absolutely it. Understanding, I think, a lot of people go, well, what should I be focusing on, when it comes to, what should my gross profitability target be, or what should my overhead percentage be, or whatever. First and foremost, and many of the listeners have probably already heard this, but on a month-to-month basis, okay, I care about the dollar amount of the overhead, not the percentage amount per se. And here's why, okay? $500,000 into the door at $50,000 a month is a 10% overhead, right? But what happens whenever it's 250,000 and then it's the same level of overhead, right? It goes to 20%. So the idea of it is that you would understand your gross burn rate, you would understand what it costs to keep the lights on, and on a dollar figure amount. And at the end of the day, your cost of goods sold and getting that optimized to have a very healthy gross profitability margin. It depends on a lot of factors, right? It depends on, are you in a store market? Are you in a high affluency area? Are you doing, multitude of trades? There's a lot of things that you could kind of get into when we're talking about that topic, right? So when people, I think all of us, and Greg, you mentioned this. Hey, what's up, Nate?
hey Nate, good to see you.
Someone else said, yo, what's happening, guys? So appreciate you. But I think that entire topic, right? There are certainly truths or facts of what we like to kind of base our business on for this industry, right? If you're in a storm market, it's really it does, and I know, Greg, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this a little bit too, in terms of the supplementing process or going to appraisals or whatever. Like, to get your number, I think it is very much conditional on the market you're in, right? I have a market in Arkansas, right?
Right.
And I can tell you for sure that they are not paying claims out the same they are in Dallas, Texas, or Minneapolis or
Right.
Denver. It's just not the same, right?
Right.
So certainly different schemes and different things that you can, or different processes to go through in order to achieve effective gross profitability. But in our market there, our goal is to reach 30%, right? But a lot of that also depends on, again, if your overhead is, it's simple math, right? Like working from the top down, and I'll stop on my run here with concluding thoughts here and kick it back over to you. But the idea of what you're hitting on is essentially, 100% is the revenue, the gross revenue dollars coming into the door, right? It's always 100%. And at the end of the day, getting yourself through that funnel of understanding how to effectively, there's three ways, right? To be more profitable, to either increase your revenue and keep consistency to your overhead and to your cost of goods sold, right? Cost of goods sold percentage. It's either secondly, to decrease your cost of goods sold, or to decrease your operating expenses or your expenses across the board, right? And so if you know that, it's pretty simple. The idea of it is at least simple, where it says, okay, 100% of the revenue coming in the door, we understand that our cost of goods sold is 70%. That means our gross profit margin is 30%. And if you're running a 20% overhead company, that's going to leave you with 10% left, right? Before you pay into taxes and interest and all those things, right? But the idea of it is pretty simple, and so that's what you're speaking to, and I love that, because if you understand, hey, I need to be at 30% or 40% or whatever it is, and you base your business off of that, off of holding your company accountable to achieve that gross profitability metric, it really, outside noise and all the things going on, it really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, this is what you have to do in order to ensure that you remain profitable and remain healthy as an organization. You cannot lose at that point, right? So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I think you hit a really good. I love all the stuff we're talking about here, because I think the other side. This is what I see in being in the storm market space. Storm hits, we get super excited, right? We're going to crush it. Like, I have this market, no one's in it. I found this honey hole. I'm gonna annihilate this space. I don't have the time, right? I don't have the time to keep track of it, and I've mostly ahead most of the time. So I'm just gonna keep going. And this is probably one thing that I've learned in growing SFY is there's a few things that I make sure that we pretty much do all the time. I have a managers meeting I do every week, and we go through all the stuff, and we have like one of them's tracking our numbers. Like if you track
Yeah.
your numbers on a weekly basis and through your team, and some people like, and there are times we are slammed busy, right? Like people are like, we should just cancel the meeting. I'm like, no, we can't. Like everyone has to be on the same page
1,000.
continually, and everyone has to understand where we are and go through all this stuff. And look, I get it. Yes, we are completely sand, but this is an area we can't cut because we need to know what's going on to make the right decisions moving forward. And I think there's a lot of times that when we get overwhelmed with work, we allow those things in overwhelming to overtake our other decisions that we should do on a must. And we don't, hey, look, I have to have it. I don't care. We're having the meeting. And there's like a few meetings I canceled, but they're pretty rare. I mean, you could
Mhm.
ask my management team, they're pretty rare that I cancel a manager's meeting. And I think this is something that owners should do. Like, hey, they should have a meeting with themselves and their office manager, make sure that we're hitting our numbers, or their office manager team, or how big their team is, to
Yep.
go through and make sure they're hitting their numbers. Because I think if they work on a weekly scenario, and this is just one area, like, hey, look, are we hitting our sales goals? Are we
Yep.
hitting our, like, did we knock enough doors? Are we selling enough retail stuff? Like, like, like here in Denver, I know a lot of people for the longest time only relied on the, storm market side of it. And I'm a big
Yep.
fan that roofing companies should have a retail sector of their
Absolutely.
company. Like
Absolutely.
they should be able to sell retail roofs, and you should be easily. I recommend at least a 50% of your business should come from retail, um, and not all from storm. And I know there's a lot of companies here in Denver that have folded, and haven't been able to move, or they're moved, right? They moved to Omaha, they moved to some other small town to go because they only know how to sell in storm
Yep.
situations. And if that's the case, then they're going to have to move. They don't haven't created their business to survive. And when we look at business and creating a healthy business and healthy scenario and healthy money, that's how we get there.
Yeah, I agree. Vertical diversification, right?
Right.
Where you have, a commercial division, or you have some solar integration, or you
Right.
have some other things that, because at the end of the day, right, the running that storm model where you're just going to run to the storm, you can certainly make that a business model. But, at the end of the day, you better, if you're going to run that model, you better know your numbers,
Yes.
because there's plenty of them that do that, and they go run around to disaster situations, throw up tarps, they're out of
Right.
business because they can't get their money, and whatever. I mean, so I'm not a fan of that model, right? But if
Right.
I'm talking to folks that are like, oh yeah, screw it, we're always going to just be a storm company. That's how it's going to be, right? If that's the case, diverse yourself in markets, in my opinion, as
Right.
well. If that's the game you're going to play. But I couldn't agree with you more, Greg, that the idea that you're just going to play this storm game and just continue to either chase it or just set a market the second that it happens, fold the market as soon as, it goes dry for a couple years, whatever. I think the more you can create a real brand presence and have, again, retail presence, commercial presence, in with some more, specific niches.
Right.
I think that that's great advice, and I
Right.
think that we we could go on and on about the reasons as to why. But if you're a storm person, and Greg from the supplementing world, right? Not that supplementing and estimating from the basis of what they do most is a bad thing. It's a great thing
Right.
because it's helping. It's helping contractors, but it's advocating well on the policyholders' behalf, because we know how much these insurance companies these days are causing some issues. So it's great. But if you've ever been a part of a retail market or into some higher affluency areas, or things of that nature,
Mm-hmm.
you'll know real quick that you'll know whether or not your stuff is actually very, very well put together as an operation and as a
Yeah.
process, or not. Because you have to be a lot more, you have to really establish a brand and really be a strong presence in those areas. So I love that. Another thing, as we kind of shift gears a little bit, and then we'll take a quick break, just on pre-supplementing in general. Let's talk a little bit
Right.
about that, because I know that kind of ties into this a little bit.
Yeah.
Can you just share with us, what first,
Yeah.
whether
I,
it's
I
pre-supplementing and what, and kind of just your thought process behind
yeah.
it?
So so when I ran my roofing company and just watching numbers and being in the insurance space, like the insurance company's not overpaying. I'll just put it that way, right?
Yeah.
It's there's only been a few estimates out of the 1,000 I've done that I've seen like, oh, they crushed this estimate. This one's solid. Like there's nothing else you could add. So I always, when I started as a sales guy or taught my project managers that pretty much you have to prep the homeowner in getting that, hey, look, we're probably gonna have to supplement this file to the insurance company. It's a common process, right? And I was like, look, they're a $1 billion company. They can get away with paying someone $10,000 instead of $20,000. They're gonna make that decision every day of the week. Let's just be honest. Like that would be a decision that probably is a business owner that, hey, look, if I can get away doing that, it's not a big deal. And then they're gonna supplement on the other side. Now, I think they should pay a little quicker, but that's neither here nor there. So I always prep the homeowner in the communication of what the process would look and set the right expectation for the homeowner, what the supplement side could look like. But also this goes back to looking at our numbers, right? So you're going to get the insurance paperwork. What is the numbers? Is this project ready to move forward? Because then if it is, then you can communicate that to the homeowner. If it's not, then you communicate to the homeowner, hey, look, I'm going to have to work with your insurance company. Could take anywhere between 3 to 6 weeks or, 60 days because Ian or whatever, like the different storms. You probably prep the homeowner, but I'll keep in communication with you through this process. So you diffuse the problem with the homeowner. Now the homeowner is not going to be riding your case. How come the roof's not done? The communication, you set a correct timeline for them. And you've also created enough time for you to fix out this problem with the insurance carrier. Now, I also am a big fan of when it got really busy, a lot of people, sales guys, when it's really slam busy in the store market, they run through, sign a homeowner as fast as they can, and they don't finish closing the deal with the homeowner, right? So don't spend the right amount of time with the homeowner, make sure the homeowner's closed, as well as I'm also a big fan of the project manager doing the proper documentation on the home at that same time.
Mm-hmm.
I know the project manager, I don't want to spend the extra 30 minutes, 40 minutes to document the loss. But there's so many times that I see that when they don't do that, the amount of time that is spent to try to recapture that is
Mm-hmm.
oodles. It's probably 4 or 5 times the amount of time because you got to go drive back out there. Some of
Yep.
the guy, he only gets half the pictures. He's not really committed. It's this will cycle that goes there. So I think in the documentation, if that's done at that time and the pre-supplement, it really helps out a lot quicker. And you'll know if you need a pre-supplement by based upon going back to our numbers. Hey, look, I can start the pre-supplement right away. So I think if you're not hitting your numbers or you need to hit more, the faster you do it, the better you are. Side of it and
Yep.
getting the information up to the carrier, especially the carriers being slammed with Ian. Hey, look, we're not looking at anything for 2 weeks out, right? So you're not even looking at it in 2 weeks. So like you could submit it, still work on the project, and still it's going to take 2 weeks before they're looking at paperwork or pictures or anything that you sent them.
Yeah. So let me ask this real quick on the pre-supplementing topic. Like, so in the couple key takeaways there before I ask this question
Yeah,
is got to know your numbers, but got to know your number based on square count or, what your
right.
price per square is, or, how your cost of goods sold plays out, whether that's roofing or siding or gutters or whatever, whatever it
Right. Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Right. But yeah, I mean, so let me ask you this. If you, let's say that, I need to be at $400 a square minimum, right?
Right.
Like to
Yep.
make the numbers of my business make sense. Okay. On a
Right.
roofing job. If it's coming in at 350, let's say, do you encourage people to go ahead and pull the trigger and, take the gamble on needing to get that extra $50 a square to make the most sense of that? Or is that where you would encourage, hey, get to your number and then, let's set a goal? Because what we teach, and the reason I'm asking this question is I'd like to hear your feedback. What we teach is, hey, get to that to that number that is the least allowable to your business, right?
Yep.
And then have the goal, right?
Yep.
So I'd like to hear your thought on that.
Yeah. No. So I have a cutoff, whatever the number is, right? Where you do price
Yeah.
per square or dollar amount percentage, either one, right? It's all the
Mm-hmm.
same thing, just
Yeah.
working numbers a little different. Is what is your cutoff line, right? So if it's not hitting this mark, we don't roof it, right? Whatever that is, right? We just don't do roof it. If it's not hitting it's got at least hit a 15% profit margin on it. I know I'll get above that when I supplement, but it's got to be at this benchmark before I start the process.
Yeah.
As well as you can also communicate that to the homeowner, right? I always tell people you should have a couple copies of insurance paperwork where the insurance company has paid for this claim the proper way, right? You white out the homeowner's information and you can show them, hey,
Yeah.
look, here's a State Farm claim that I have. Neighbor right down the street in the same neighborhood, they're paying XYZ per square. Here's another one. This one's from farmers or Liberty or whoever you want to use, right? just so you know, I'm not just this, selected one. Here's another one. So the other carriers are paying properly what it should cost to roof the house. So I'm going to have to talk to the carrier and communicate them, right? And then it helps really get the homeowner on your side of the fence that their carrier is not paying properly for the claim, because they'll see two other properties that
Yeah.
they are paying, and you can go line item. Here's overhead and profit. Here's supervised hours.
Yeah.
Here's a starter ridge right here. Here's starter. Here's ridge. Here's this. Oh, by the way, they paid for tarping right here, and they paid for extra hours of, whatever it is, right? You can
Sure.
point out the things that are missing from their estimate, and it makes it real easy to get the homeowner on your side.
I love it. Yeah. And we, on our end, and I'm not saying everybody is built this way or should do this, because you got to know your numbers very well to be able to do what I'm about to say. But we actually have a lot of financial transparency with our clients too, where we just literally put it in layman's terms. Like, this is what material costs, this is what labor costs, plug in their number. We have kind of a formula that is, to show like what, we're a business, right? We are in business to make a profit. Don't be mistaken, right? But also, when you have that level of financial transparency, kind of lets them know, hey, the insurance company does need to be held accountable to pay their part and for it to be replaced the right way, et cetera, right? So a couple ways to go about that. But I love that. I love that, the widening it out and, showing other examples. It's good stuff. So when we get back, we're going to take a quick break and go to commercial here. When we get back, we'll talk a little bit about that inspection process. You were talking about a little bit about that. And then also I'd like to talk about WIP, work in progress, and what does that need to look like as well in order for you to continue to expedite your supplementing and claims process. So we'll go to commercial real quick. Come back.
If you aren't using Job Nimbus, you should be.
The effects that it's going to have on my personal life, I can see is automation is going to change the way I live.
We've been able to eliminate all the paper, all of our paper files, and actually everything is online for us now.
Stop driving job site to job site or texting and emailing photos. Know what's happening across your business. Get started for free today.
Appreciate our sponsor sponsoring the show, to our presenting sponsor, jobnimbus.com. Thank you to them. If you have not checked out Job Nimbus, they are an industry-leading CRM and automation tool as well, with some of the new Engage product they just introduced. So please go check them out at jobnimbus.com, as well as Company Cam. Appreciate Company Cam sponsoring the show. An incredible tool to use in the field. Capturing photos actually kind of applies to our next topic here. But if you have not checked out Company Cam, you are missing out. Go check them out again at companycam.com, and appreciate both of the sponsors sponsoring the show. Really appreciate them. So back to the action. Yeah, talking about photos, documentation, understanding, what is needed, right? And I think, as roofing company owners, and I'm one of them. You've been a roofing company owner before, Greg. You know that. I think we all tend to get excited about storm hitting or just the revenue, the dollars pouring in. Right? There's something that is that's addicting about it. Right? We're business owners. We love to excel. We love to be able to go chase it. But you got to remember process, and you got to remember to make sure that you don't move too fast in the process, because it'll actually slow you down. And so I want to talk a little bit about the documentation and things that you like to see over at SFY. So let's start first and foremost, the inspection meeting. I know that you hit on that a little bit when you said there's a lot of wasted time going back and forth. Okay. And I'm talking to the people listening live and those that will listen to this recording. You got to make sure that you have a standard operating procedure for how an effective inspection should go. And I know SFY has a great document tool that they provided. And I'll let Greg share a little bit about that. But you got to have that, because it's so incredibly crucial to eliminating a lot of the unnecessary needs of traveling back to job sites or getting in a pinch where, you didn't get the photos you needed and now you cause a problem to your supplement or whatever. So Greg, share with us a little bit of your perspective on that. And I know you guys have created some great tools.
Yeah. We have a photo checklist. We also do a photo training that's free. You can go and we teach the different types of photos you should take on a home. And I think one of the things I think some people miss in the photo documentation when they rush it. So when we're looking at ourselves as professionals, right? We all talk about we're experts in the space, we're professionals. We have on our trucks that say it all the time. But yet when we do the work, we're sometimes not being professional in our work product, right? So when I think of a professional, someone going up just taking a bunch of pictures of hail hits on a roof and coming down and claiming that they're a professional in the space doesn't, to me, feel like you're a professional. It sounds like you're a hustler, right? Like you go out and you hustle, right? Nothing against it.
Oh,
Hustlers
there's hail. File that claim.
Right. Yeah. Right. That's just what it is. I can see the hail from the roof,
Yeah.
And, and I know a lot of people don't like to get on roofs anymore and all this other thing, right? So I'm a big fan of still climbing on the roof. I'm still a big fan of personally inspecting the property. I think that does something in the sale that people don't understand. When a homeowner calls a roofer to come out, they're expecting someone to be able to go up on the roof and look at it. They don't like to look at the roof. They don't want to get up on the roof. People don't really enjoy hanging Christmas lights. Every now and then you find one homeowner that enjoys that, but it's like extremely rare. And I think as a sales guy, when you get up on the roof and you do a thorough documentation of all the photos of the roof and then do the property itself, and it takes you 30 minutes to do it, it begins to slow the homeowner down. Like, wow, this guy's really doing something out here. He's just like, because in a storm market, they've had other people climb the roof, right? And they've been up in 10 minutes, they're down. And when you take your time and then you come down and you show them that you have 200, 300 photos of their home, they begin to now move you from just some schmuck in a truck to now they moved you. This guy is a professional in this space. And he's also thoroughly documenting everything. And I can trust him. Like there's a trust that is built, that is established when you do that I think some people miss in the sale, in the lieu of trying to gain other clients, that they're missing that this homeowner now is going to advocate for you because they see how much time you take with them and make sure that they're the most important client in front of you and the documentation side of it. And then when it comes to supplementing or giving the documentation to us, it's already done. It's already ready to go. You're going to move the ball forward that much faster. So by slowing it down here, it's much quicker in the supplement process is what I have found, in doing. And I know a lot of people, some people like, hey, the Great Clays or someone else can come by and document. And if people still want to do a drone, I know drones, a lot of people said that drones help people are just more interested. They like to see the flying thing in the air flying around. And you still can do that. I think taking the time to document the loss and doing it really well shows a lot to the homeowner, and they really respect you in your profession and your field, especially when you take time to go through that. I think there's a relationship that's built that is missed a lot that people don't understand in a psychology of the customer itself.
Yeah. Love it. Two takeaways for me there. Slow down to speed up, right?
Right.
And that applies in a lot of different scenarios, but slow down to speed up. And then also, you got to be an inspector, right? You got to actually be a roofing inspector. I think there's, or of all the trades, right? Especially if there's catastrophe that's struck or something, we got to get the lower and upper elevations, and I pulled up our SOP just to talk a little bit about it, but, understanding that it's not just, hey, let's just get the roof and let's get the close-ups of the hail damage and all that stuff, right? I mean, understanding there are so many components: downspouts, gutters, fascia, soffits, siding, screens. I mean, I'm not going to rattle all this off. Everybody, by and large, if you work in storms, you should know this. But the idea of it, like when an adjuster, for example, goes on site, right, and they're writing, PJ whatever, right, on the roof. Okay, you should have a process as well that documents the amount of accessories, the damage of the accessories. You should understand, if a satellite is present or whatever, right? There's so many things that you could do to help expedite that process, especially, and we teach our team to get all of that written on the roof as if I were an adjuster, right? Snap a picture of that because that goes into a file, so that way our supplementation team immediately knows if something's missing from the scope, right? Especially when it's sent out initially. So I think just not that that's super, super profound. I think some of the work in progress stuff is a little bit more probably almost non-existent in the industry, to be honest with you, because, I'm sure you haven't fielded a phone call, Greg, that's your team that's been like, hey, we need a full redeck done. You're like, we don't have anything to be able to support that, right? Or where's the even tape measure to
take a photo of that, hopefully, like just maybe.
Yeah. So I mean, let's shift gears a little bit talk about that. And I am so much of a proponent of having your crews either have access to the jobs that they're working through company cam or an app of sorts like that, or inside your CRM if they are, you know, competent enough, you've trained them enough to operate within certain I guess user profiles if they, you know, to whatever the accessibility of that is. So I would like to get your feedback a little bit too on like inside of this as the jobs are playing out, right? What have you found to be the most efficient process with making sure that everything's done correctly and captured correctly? Is that having supervisory and superintendents? Is that better crew training? Like what's your
so I have always struggled in having the superintendent crew leader of the roofing crew I had to get all the documentation I need. I just didn't. Right. Even if I paid him extra, it never happened the way I needed it to on the supplement side to get the carrier to pay for it.
Yeah.
So I find whether it be the sales guy, now I'm not anti the sales guy running his own job. Usually what I find is because roofing crews show up at the job site like 7 in the morning.
Yeah.
Sales guys struggle getting anywhere at 7 in the morning. Right. And it's just the honest truth, right? It's just, I had one that could, the others could not. Right. And so I had a production guy that would show up at the job site because nowadays you need pictures of the step flashing being removed. You need pictures of the turtle vents being removed. You need pictures of the drip edge being removed. You need photos of, right? And these are a couple other things you could do that you get paid for that no one takes pictures of it, right? If you want to do an OSHA safety meeting, you can take a picture of OSHA safety meeting. If you want to take pictures of ladders and harnesses and those types, I call them photo shoots because my crews never wore them all the time. Like, you know, but I did make them wear it. I was like, when I'm on site, you got to wear them.
Absolutely.
And just, you know, but you could take a picture and we could supplement it. We never write for it because no one takes a picture of it and the insurance company will pay for it all day long. You could set up a little tent with a water station and some of these are little things that you could add, but insurance company have no problem paying for it. The reason they don't want to pay for it because there's no documentation it's ever being done. And those are things that are big ticket items. And then when someone's there on site, it gives you justification of why you needed a supervisor on site. Well, you required photos of this. And I needed a supervisor to make sure these photos got captured. I need a supervisor to make sure we walk through the OSHA certification. Here's our OSHA training that we're supposed to do with our crew every day. We're supposed to do a 10, 15-minute OSHA thing and everyone's signing. Here's their signatures, right? Here's this, right? And these are all these little things that easily add up to big dollar amounts for you later. And then you pretty much pay for your production guy. It's just some of these small little things that get there. I have found, that's what I found, having someone other than the sales guy run the actual roofs because they'll get there at 7 in the morning. Because I mean, tear off by 10 is done, right? Like, I mean, the whole thing is done, right? So the sales guy coming in at 10, he missed all the photos he needed to take, right? So it didn't happen, right? So
I love it. I'm a, you know, I've kind of rubbed some people wrong with my idea of what I think is most successful in terms of having sales do sales, production do production, finance do finance in our space. I know that cradle to grave is a very common thing inside of this industry, right? But I couldn't agree with you more that you got to have a presence that is, you know, that is a superintendent level person of sorts that can go in and the way I want to kind of break it down here for our viewers is, you know, work in progress is not as simple as just getting there at 7 in the morning, taking the pictures that are necessary and then fleeing and then hoping that it all gets done the right way when it's done, right? You should have checkpoints involved in that work in progress SOP, right? Where, you know, the first thing, as you mentioned, taking pictures of tent setups or doing some of those ancillary things that are not typical to take photos of and harnesses and your OSHA, you know, prep meeting and stuff, or OSHA meeting real quick, stuff like that. Those things are extremely important to document for you on the supplementing side, also because, you know, it prepares you to, or excuse me, it has you prepared to be able to present any sort of documentation if necessary to protect yourself as well, right? And when you get in situations where you're running low on material or you have things that you know go missing, right? You can protect yourself by having adequate photos and documentation through the process. And I'm not saying that, you know, I'm not claiming that there's a ton of thieves out there, but they do exist, right? And things like that happen. And so you got to have a preparation. You're making sure that things are prepped well, making sure you have your catch-alls or whatever else. Then you got to have some sort of midpoint inspection, right? Which is like after things are torn off, especially when we talk about the restoration side, where you're removing everything, hopefully taking it down to the deck, right? Should be.
Right.
And then getting the adequate photo documentation, right? There's a cricket that needs to be installed here. There
Right.
needs to be whatever, right? And having some sort of, all right, we need to capture a lot of photos here. And then as there is the completion, right? The final check, the walk, the certificate of completion, if you will, that allows you to be able to gain some leverage with the homeowner or property owner that you're serving. Say, hey, like, we've crossed off all the boxes, we checked everything off, you've walked the property with us, et cetera, et cetera. So not to go too into the weeds there, but you should have a process for every piece of that work in progress.
Right. Yeah.
So and I think, just for those of you that have never thought about it like that, right? It should be documented. And you should also, I'm a big proponent of crew training. And I know that that's something that is not very common in our industry, especially in store markets. It's just whoever will build the roof, we're going to hire them and deal with the aftermath. Unfortunately, that exists, right? But proper crew vetting, proper training to make sure that you have some sort of adequate training process around how your company does things. And so I think all of that ties into, again, being able to be better equipped to be able to get that supplement, or to get the to get what you need on the insurance side of things, right? So
Yeah. And I also like the other side as a homeowner. So let's take, you have a production guy on site. Hey, look, how you do today, Mr. Jones? I just want you to know, it's just taking the pictures here. Here we are setting up our tent. We just got done finishing our OSHA meeting, and here's the safety tarps that we put around to protect your property. Just want to let you know we'll be working on tearing off your roof. Later, I'll show some pictures, some tear off in the roof down at the decking. However, have a great rest of the day, right? You send that in text. As a homeowner, you're like, wow,
yeah,
like, that was way cool. I could never saw any of that, right? And then, hey, look, they're doing it, right? And then what's going to happen is he's going to talk to us. Hey, look, dude, check out this. Like, my roofer is doing all this, right? And he's sharing stuff with his buddies at work as his roof's getting done, because it's kind of cool and unique, because no one ever does that. And I think it just shows another level of customer service that you could achieve, and get really good reviews. And if something does come up, hey, look, they saw that you were working all day, and like something like short, whatever, or it's going to go on to the next day, they'll have complete understanding and not really care, and know that you're going to take care of it.
Yeah, and there's so many things we could talk about in terms of automating some of that process as well, or having some of those tools, right? So let's talk about that a little bit as we wrap this thing up. Some of the processes, especially inside of the CRM, all these things are geared toward and allowing you to be more profitable, right? I think efficiency we gauge as roofers in a lot of ways as just how many roofs can I throw up as quick as possible, and let me just get to the end of the year and see where the chips fall. That is not healthy. And I've shared that on stage a few times already. And I'm like, all right, raise of hands. How many of us know a person or are the person that just slings roofs and hopes that at the end of the year, when the dust settles, everything's good, right? And I mean, everybody raises their hands, right? So having better process and being able to be more reliant or more involved with technology and CRM and utilizing all these things, right? It improves profitability. So take us home here, Greg. Just kind of share us last few points that, around this topic, I guess, just to say, hey, this is all geared towards improving profitability. And if you have anything more to share around just helping companies become more profitable.
I think, one, if you don't have a CRM system, you have to get one, right? JobNibs is amazing, right? They're our sponsor. They do a phenomenal job in crushing the CRM system. So if you don't have a CRM system, you need to use it. And it also, this the other side, it comes from the head down, right? So you as the owner, you need to suck it up, and you need to do the hard work and learn your CRM, right? You need to learn the numbers. When people communicate to you, it's not like, oh, hey, I'm going to call Julie, the office manager, to get me the information, because I don't know how to get the information in my own CRM. Like, no, you should know how to get the information yourself. The other people shouldn't have to see you go to somewhere else to get the information, because then they know you don't use it. So that means that they probably could get away not using it, right? So if you're going to have a healthy company and a grow and scalable company, you need to learn that tool to be able to go through, and you could crush it. You could do amazing things, right? And when I had my company, CRM systems were just emerging. And I sold it. And I'm jealous of all you guys that have companies now, because I'm like, it's so much easier now. I'm like,
Yeah.
you have no idea running this off an Excel sheet and QuickBooks and the struggles it was to manage all this volume of data and information. And then probably the second thing, make sure you have your meetings. You got to have your meetings. You know, it's what keeps you out of the fires.
I love it. Well, we normally finish off the show with a gold nugget. You dropped a bunch of things there for us. Can you give us one more? I'll kick us off if you want to use any of the ones you just said, but yeah, I know, leaving everybody with a gold nugget. I'll start off and leave you a couple seconds to think about that. But I think that biggest takeaway, what you said in that last segment, is like, leverage the technology that's available to you, right? There are so much available to us all today. And I think the more and more that we, are going to continue to go down this path of especially in the insurance world, but just being a modern roofer or a modern general contractor or whatever you are out there listening to this, that you need to understand, obviously, the topic of a large topic of the call, knowing your numbers, but then also the fact that there's so much to be available to you and accessible to you that you should really look into technology if you have not already done so. And so I appreciate you sharing that stuff, Greg. So I'll kick it over to you to give us our last.
My last gold nugget, probably, you have to remember, people are assets. And if you're ever going to grow a company, you're ever going to scale it, you're going to need people, you're going to need team members around you. So when you're growing your company, your organization, the people you work with are assets to your team, and you need to treat them like that. And I think the way we treat the people in this space, some people do a great job and some people just suck at it. And you really need to understand, if you want to do 5 million, 10 million, you're going to need to understand that the people on your team are assets, and you need to learn to invest in them and grow and develop them and coach them and train them and teach them and care for them. And to see them to become all they can be and help them hit their dreams and goals as well.
Couldn't say it better myself, my man. That's good stuff. So appreciate you joining today. And for everybody, again, that's listened to the podcast, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, as well as please like, share, comment on social platforms. This content right here, someone needs to hear it. And so again, appreciate you, Greg, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you guys next week on episode, I think, 211. And so it'll be fun to go through that. But again, appreciate you, man. Thanks for joining us this week.
Thanks.
And we'll see you guys next week. Thanks.
Peace.